You're watching Personal Finance with Coach Kelvin. Let's get into the video. Hey guys, Coach Kelvin here. Now in today's video, I want to talk about what is FIRE, how I plan to achieve FIRE and what I wish to do with my time when I do, and why achieving it can be so helpful later on in life and basically prepare you for any range of circumstances that get thrown your way, okay? So FIRE is basically an acronym for financial independence and retire early. So this is two parts to the equation. Now the financial independence part, that's referring to basically having enough income from your investments to cover your entire cost of living. The retire early part, that's basically saying you don't have to slog it out all the way until the age of preservation, which here in Australia is 65. Okay, that means you can break away from that obligation to work earlier because you are choosing to retire. Now, you don't have to basically do both. When you are achieving FIRE, your form of retirement may not be necking beers on the beach forever because, let's be honest, for most people that's not going to be fulfilling. But your form of retirement may be working on projects you're passionate about, helping and contributing to the community, and spending time with loved ones and friends, okay? So let's look at financial independence first. Now, financial independence is basically saying you're going to have enough income from your investments that is going to cover every expense you have in your life. Now, there are a few sources that we can achieve this income from, and the main ones are going to be coming from shares, whether that's selling down your portfolio or receiving dividends. On both, you'll have to pay tax after that tax-free threshold in Australia of $18,200. But that gives you a lot of play. And to have that much income coming in at a tax-free rate is pretty phenomenal. Now, the other source or the other place you can receive that income from is rental properties. Now, when you have investment properties that have a loan against them, if you're able to cover all your expenses because they are cash flow positive after you receive the rent, then whatever is left over, you will receive and you can live off that money potentially. Now, rental income is obviously going to be a lot higher yield to you if that house has a lower debt or a lower interest rate. So if you're able to basically retire with a house paid off, which you are renting, after expenses like your land rates, water rates, insurance, anything else that may come by being the homeowner. You know, you may have to replace a hot water system, fix an air conditioner, fix some plumbing that's gone bad. After all of those expenses, whatever money's left over, you can then use to live off. And if that can cover some of your living expenses, that's great. However, there is sort of a less passive element to being an investment property owner because you'll be constantly in conversation with a property manager or self-managing your properties. You're going to be going through periods where you may not be able to have a tenant in the place, or you're struggling to get a tenant out if they're not paying, etc. So there's an inherent amount of risk that comes down to factors outside of your control when you own investment properties. Now, the same can be said for when you own shares. However, shares that pay dividends tend to be a little more consistent, and you can almost predict your future cash flows a lot easier. So those are sort of the main two resources we have that most people use to achieve financial independence. You can obviously earn income in other ways as well, royalties, interest, etc. But let's just use those two. Now, the reason I wish to achieve FIRE is not so that I can stop working completely. I love what I do as a personal trainer, but I wish I didn't have to, charge to cover my living expenses in order to do it. So if I reach financial independence, that means I'm not going to have to charge much, if anything, to the people I wish to train in the gym. So FIRE to me would actually allow me to then, include people who are maybe of a lower socio-economic demographic, people who do not have access to gyms, personal trainers, people who potentially have never heard of it or are too nervous to get started and do not wish to invest that amount of money. I'm going to try and make this accessible to them by making it cost not an arm and a leg and hopefully nothing at all eventually. If I can get to this stage, this is how I plan to contribute to the society and to the economy. I will allow those people to work out, feel healthy, have a maybe shift in lifestyle, but it's not going to cripple them financially, because my goal is to help people by being a personal trainer, not to destroy them. Okay. Now, I know it can be a bit daunting to go to coach classes and to a more expensive gym, especially when you're comparing, these sorts of 24-hour gyms that may charge $10 a week, and they're just hoping that you will pay a membership, not rock up, and you just part with your money every single week, basically, keeping that machine alive. I'm not interested in that, and I think it's quite a predatory part of the fitness industry, and I'm completely against it. So what I plan to do is run classes that would be free, or individual personal training sessions that would be free to people who otherwise would not have access. This is going to allow them to, perhaps get stronger and fitter, to pass medicals, to get jobs. This is going to help them to be stronger and more confident, which will definitely help them with job interviews and, other aspects of life. So my goal is to really try and uplift those around me and not have to do that at a premium, which cripples them financially. Now, obviously, if I have the opportunity to do this at a reduced rate because I start getting closer to financial independence, I can start doing my work at a cheaper rate and, make it more affordable to people. But once I reach that end goal, I'm not going to need to charge anything at all, hopefully. Once I pay out all the expenses of working in the gym, or if I were to own one later on in life, once all of those sort of base expenses are covered by my investment income, I'm not going to need to do this and charge a rate. Or perhaps I charge to those that can afford, and we treat it like a charity, where then that money can be diverted to funding the gym to be able to operate these free classes to those in need. Now, financial independence for me is going to allow me to not necessarily retire, but like I said, still contribute, still work as a personal trainer, but have a bit more flexibility and less obligation to work. So I might in fact not have to work long hours between two jobs. I could just work a single job. I could choose less hours of the day so that I can actually have some amount of sleep, because as I've mentioned before, as a personal trainer, you work pretty antisocial hours. You're always tired because you're working early mornings and late nights, and it's very physical. So, I might choose to have some days where I actually finish really early and I can go and have a really good night's sleep that night. Other days where maybe I will work a full day. It will depend on what I feel like when I get to that point. And yeah, so what I want to talk about next is why achieving financial independence is so important. So if you have a large investment portfolio, and even if you don't make it all the way to financial independence, but let's say you get to 50% of the way, if a large medical expense, a black swan event where you're hit with a huge bill or something comes up, this isn't going to cripple you financially. You're just going to have basically a little roadblock on the journey there. You may need to sell down some investment to pay it, or you may need to stop working for a little while so your investments or some of your income can just cover your living expenses for the time being. So I know for myself, I would absolutely hate to have to sell down my portfolio due to some sort of medical expense. But that is far better than getting hit with a super large bill or having to become homeless because I can't afford any of the expenses coming my way. If I have to sell something down at an inconvenience to myself, at least I'll still have somewhere to live. I'll be able to, put food on the table and, keep myself ticking along. Now, depending on those who have an emergency fund, whether it's in cash or credit or something like that, if you have an emergency fund you can fall back on, you may wish to, keep, say, 3 months living expenses in cash. But for those without debt, I don't see that as being so necessary if you can earn an investment income on that money. So a high interest savings account isn't returning so much right now, so you might be able to put those funds to more efficient use or use them better. And then if you do come into a point in time where you feel like, oh, I actually need that money for this huge bill, I need to replace my car, I need a hip surgery, something like this, you're going to be able to just simply sell down some of that portfolio and you'll be prepared for that. Because we may be waiting 10, 20 years for this black swan event to come up while we're sitting on all this cash, and therefore we're not earning productive income from it. So financial independence and working towards that by investing money, that sort of is your rainy day or your emergency fund, okay? And the reason I think that this is so necessary is because you don't want to be living life on the edge and feeling stressed, waiting for that thing to happen and knowing that it's going to be extremely crippling to your well-being or your financial situation the second it happens. You know, a lot of people go through life always trying to catch up on the bills they've got, always struggling to pay off debts, etc. So if you're already on top of everything and you have some investment income and some cash in savings, and one of these events comes along, you're literally going to feel so much more relaxed knowing that you have the funds to deploy to stay on top of this situation. When you reach full financial independence, then you want to look at, having an emergency fund, etc., because we may not want to sell down our portfolio and going to a point where we're going to be short of our living expenses. However, you always have the option to go back to work. And a lot of people, when they reach financial independence and early retirement, they can then find some sort of meaningful work which they can do, and they may actually earn a little bit of income from it. We've all heard of people who are financially independent and producing amazing amounts of income and could retire but still want to give quality content and serve people. So we have YouTubers out there such as Graham Stephan, Andre Jig, Meet Kevin. They're putting out this amazing content all the time and basically allowing people like you and I to learn from them so that we can make more sound investment decisions based on the free knowledge that they are giving us through YouTube. We don't have to pay for their service. YouTube is paying them through ad revenue, and people are spending money through their affiliate links, etc. So they're still earning money even though they are completely financially independent, and their investment income could likely cover all of their living expenses. So this is an interesting thing. Your early retirement may still actually be paying you for the meaningful work that you found yourself wanting to do, because as I said, after a little while, laying on a beach drinking beer is going to get a little boring. Alright guys, so that's the video for today, and I hope that you've learned something from this. You can see why financial independence and retiring early is such a great methodology and thing to believe in and strive towards, because even if you don't get the whole way there, second place is still pretty unreal. Guys, if you got any value from this video, please like, share and subscribe. Leave a comment, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.